but know where you want to go with it and figure out how to build that relationship. If you do not have the relationship, you will not get an opportunity to tell your story or to talk about what you have.
Welcome to The Selling Edge, where we explore the tools, strategies, and stories that help sellers win faster and smarter. I'm Kathy Eagle, and today I'm joined by Julie Monafo, General Manager of Summit Media Richmond, and someone who has spent more than 3 decades building lasting relationships in the media business. In this conversation, Julie shares why strong relationships remain the foundation of successful selling, especially in long-tenured markets. We talk about how to build rapport quickly, how to adapt your communication style to different decision makers, why speed and follow-through matter more than ever, and why some old-school approaches still stand out in a digital-first world. If you want to move from being seen as a vendor to becoming a true partner, this episode is for you. Well, Julie, thank you so much for joining me today for The Selling Edge. So tell me a little bit about your background.
Okay, well, I started in the radio sales business, as many people just find themselves there. It's not something that you seek out, right?
Right.
And so I started there right out of college, and it's been 35 years that I've been in the business. Just started as an account manager. I've been in 4 different markets. I have spent about 6 of those years in television, but the rest of it has all been in radio. And yeah, it's been great. I love it.
So one of the things, and I know you and I go way back, you've been in Richmond for a really long time. And one of the things that, is so important in any kind of sales, but especially when you're in a market for a long time, is you need to have great relationships. Because if you burn bridges and you're still in that market and you're selling it specifically in a market, that's bad, right? So tell me a little bit about relationships, because everybody has always spoken so highly of you. You have a great reputation, and that comes from forming good relationships and making good business decisions. So there's a lot of things that go into that, but if you don't have great relationships, that's the foundation. So tell me a little bit about how you use relationships, how you build relationships, and how you feel about them and their importance in a business setting, in a sales setting.
Yeah, it's very important. Somebody told me this a long time ago when I first started, but people buy who they like, right?
Yeah.
So you need to be the person that you want to be. Like, you're looking for a client, you need to be friendly, you need to be generous, you need to, you need to be that person that if you were working with them, you would want to work with, right? So I think it's important to be genuine. You just got to be yourself. Sales gets a bad rap sometimes because, people are pushy, or like the used car salesman or whatever. And it's not really like that. It's about talk. I know you know this because you've done it too, but you just go out and you talk to people and you make them aware of things and be personable. Don't be everybody. Yes, you kind of need a script. You need to know what you're going to say, but don't read a script. Like, just speak to people, talk to people. It's a conversation, right? And get to know people on a personal level. And it's so easy to do if you're looking for it, right? Like, if you're going to someone's office, you happen to notice the pictures that are behind their desk, you see a picture of kids or a dog or whatever, and you're like, oh, what's your dog's name? Or what's your kid's name? How old are they? Are they in sports? Do they do this? Oh my gosh, yes, I've lived on the soccer field too with my son. Like, make it personal, right? Because you're forming a relationship with them. Yes, it's going to end up, it's a business relationship, and you're there for a business meeting, and you've got a valid business reason that got you in the door, and you're going to talk about doing business, but you have to establish rapport quickly and easily, and you need to get them to feel comfortable with you. And then if you're knowledgeable about what you're talking about and you're confident about what you're talking about, then they're going to trust you, right? And along with that is you got to do what you say you're going to do. So many times people will be, oh, yeah, I'll get you that. Days go by. Hey, can I get that yet? Whatever. I know one of the things I personally have been complimented on many times is the speed in which I reply to people. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you got that to me so fast. Well, or you say, I'm going to do this and get it to you on Thursday. Make sure you get it to them on Thursday. Don't come up with an excuse why you couldn't, or, oh, this happened. Oh, I'm going to need another day or two.
That's huge.
It's, relationships is where it starts. The people that can build relationships, establish rapport and trust quickly are going to do far better than those that struggle with that.
Yeah. And you said build rapport and relationship quickly. What are some of the things, and I know you said, just being personally interested and being genuine. But are there, when you have a new seller that comes in, what are some other things that you can tell them about? Okay, how do you build that relationship quickly? Are there any tools that you use or, even if it's searching online just to get some background on that person? Like, what are some things that people can do before they get into somebody's office and they see pictures and things like that? What are some things that they can do to try to build that rapport?
Especially in this day and age, people do search people out, right? They look for them.
It's sometimes called
It
stalking,
sometimes
but
is, yes. Fine line there, right?
yeah.
But yeah, look them up. Look them up on LinkedIn. Look them up on Facebook. Look at their website. Look at I always look at the About Us page on people's websites because it tells many times it tells about the history of the business. Oh, especially if it's a family-owned business and
Right.
who started the business and who's running it now and the fundamental principles they're founded on and this, that, and the other. And a lot of times you'll see pictures there. But yeah, search people out. You'll get a you'll get a feel just by looking at their socials pages, looking at their LinkedIn, looking at their website for sure.
Right. And then because obviously people have different behavioral styles,
Right.
and you can get clues by looking at all of those things. I mean, how does adjusting your style to their behavioral style play into building the relationship, or does it?
I think it does. So I think it's very much like, you got to dress the part for who you're meeting with the same way you need to align how you're communicating with people. So I know salespeople sometimes have been called a chameleon, right? Because you're going to address a banker or an attorney very different than you're going to address the shop owner at a mechanic shop or something, those types of businesses, or you're going to be different talking to a retailer than you would a service industry or whatever. So you do definitely know your audience.
Right.
And you need to be able to communicate clearly at all levels. And I say at all levels because you've got to cue into those buying. Well, they are buying signals at some point, but if you have a very analytical buyer, then you've got to go for the stats. You've got to go for the qualitative. You've got to talk about return on investment and this, that, and the other. And then if you've got some other guy who, is just starting a business, doesn't really know what to do, then you need to very simply talk him through the process in a way that doesn't seem overwhelming to him, right?
Yeah. And part of that, and I think this does come into relationship building, is that, you're talking about changing how you talk to somebody. I have seen too many instances where people go in and use their own company jargon or the industry jargon.
Yes.
And that can kill a relationship because you're talking over their head and it makes them feel bad.
Right.
And that is a horrible thing to do. So you're so right in that. Knowing how to talk to the person and adjust yourself and adjust your lingo based on who they are is all a part of building that relationship.
Right. Because if you talk to the high tech person in the very simple way that you talk to the person who doesn't really know what they're doing, then they're gonna think they're way above you and not need your services.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It goes both ways.
It goes both ways. So
yeah. So we are obviously a super digital world. And in fact, we're doing this podcast via Zoom today. So how can you build relationship? Because, in a lot of instances when COVID hit, the kind of going in to see people on a regular basis went out the door because we had to push it out the door. But even before that, people hide behind email and it's so easy to do that. How can you break through to that person that you've not been able to get them in face to face? You're not able to walk in on them, and they're hiding behind their email. How can you start to build a relationship just through email?
It's really hard to do it just through email. I think that I'm a big fan of picking up the phone and calling somebody. And what I tell my reps is if y'all see my inbox, that's what their inbox looks like. And they're going to go to the messages that they need to deal with. And the rest of it, they're going to say, I'm going to get to it later. But many times they don't get to it later.
Right.
And so I think we need to get back to calling people and talking to people. You have to be able to converse. Yes, you can converse and be relatable on email. You do have to be careful. Everybody interprets words differently, right? But you can try to say personal things or, little joke with them with lots of laughs or whatever. But all seriousness aside, pick up the phone and call people. That's how you're going to relate to them, right? And maybe they don't answer your phone. Maybe they don't answer it. Maybe you get their voicemail, leave a message. They hear your voice, right? Get to know the receptionist that's transferring your call and being like, oh yeah, we've missed each other, whatever. Is there a better time of the day to call? Like we've been emailing back and forth, but I really like to talk to him. Is early morning better or late in the evening or whatever, and kind of get that inside coach going for you. But I think you have to really, at some point, you have to talk to people.
Yeah.
And if you can't get them to respond via email, you've got to call. And then these days, with all the sales intel stuff out there, it's not that hard to find people's cell phone numbers either. And they're published for a reason. Back in the day, people were like, well, I don't want to call their cell phone unless they give me permission. Well, no, everybody uses their cell phone for business these days. And if you find it published, then you can call it.
Right, because they're expecting that. And I am so glad that you said to call people, because that is a trap for salespeople to just email, right? Because it's easy and I can crank them out and I don't stutter on email.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, that's the best thing to do. But the bad thing is that, I guess the good thing about calling people nowadays is that it is unique. Whereas before, when that's all we had, I mean,
exactly,
you dialed dollars, you were just calling and, running and gunning. But now that is the unique way. And I know people have had a lot of success too when they call somebody and then they follow up with an email.
Yes.
Like, hey, I just called you and left you a message. I'd really love to get with you. I mean, so there is a good sequencing. And that all goes back, though, to, like you said, when you do call somebody and they hear your voice and you give them a good, valid business reason to talk with you.
Yes.
Then that's part of the relationship building, because now you're standing out and you're a person.
Right.
You're not an email.
Right. Now, I can't tell you how many times people have said, thank you for calling. Email back and forth like that. Just pick up the phone and talk to somebody, And I've had people thank me for that, in the past multiple times. So yeah, don't hide behind the phone. It's also, I think, good because we do do the email. We do a lot of virtual meetings. And even in town, we do a lot of virtual meetings. It's still good to talk. It's still good to go drop something off for them. It's still good to invite them out to lunch. Like so many times when we all have virtual meetings, people don't know whether you're in town, out of town, 3 states away, whatever, but we're here calling on local people. Right now, digital can be out of state or what have you. But there's many, I'm thinking through clients we work with now. We do our monthly or biweekly Zoom meetings, but then we go out to lunch once a month. Or, oh, I've got some cupcakes. Let me go drop them off, for the people that work in your office. So you still have those personal touches, even though we do use technology to our advantage, because so many people like the virtual meeting because it has a start and an end time and you don't have to travel. And you can put more meetings in a day and so forth and so on. But to your point, what used to be the norm for us when we started is not the norm today. So it does stand out.
Yeah. And like you said, sometimes even internally, you don't just have relationships with clients and prospects. You have internal relationships just to be able to work well as a company. And there's so much, and I know you've experienced this too, like back and forth via email. Whereas to your point, if you just pick up the phone and call even somebody internally and say, okay, we're going back and forth. Okay, this is what I meant. What did you mean? And can we move this forward? I mean, it's not just about external relationships. It's about internal relationships too. And that can help solve a lot of frustrating emails back and forth. So let's talk about, I mentioned COVID earlier, and that was definitely a unique period, but there are quiet times after somebody purchases for you and maybe they put in an annual. Like there are quiet times with clients too. You don't want to be too aggressive and keep contacting. But how do you keep that relationship going when maybe they've just bought from you or you've got them laid in for an annual or for 6 months? How do you maintain that relationship?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to in the beginning when you're building the relationship, you learn a lot about them and then you have some, little nuggets or whatever you want to call it to know what to go back to, right? Like, okay, they've got 2 kids in elementary school. Whatever, the circus is coming to town. Hey, we got some tickets to whatever. Would you like to take your children? Whatever. Or if you know that they like a certain type of music and you've got concert tickets or whatever, offer that. As still, certain types of people still like to go to lunch. Some people don't.
I am one of them, Julie. I'm all about the food.
So know your audience. But if it's someone like that, just, take them out to lunch once a quarter or something. you don't have to be like, oh my God, I got to call you once a month. I got to stay,
Right.
but you'll think of things that they'll come to mind, or, you know, of ways that you can reach out. I mean, obviously in between sales, if you come across an article that makes sense to them, you can email to, hey, just thinking about you, that saw this about your industry, whatever. And then just, checking in from time to time. How's it going?
Yeah.
Are things going good? Need anything? Anything need tweaking? You good?
Yeah.
Just don't, you don't want silence. You don't want too much silence.
No.
You got to keep it going.
And it's a fine line. You don't want to be pesky. But if you are calling, like, our company does a lot with trends and things like that, business trends. And you mentioned sending an article.
Yes.
Like, hey, I was just thinking about you and thought you might be interested in this, or this is a trend that's happening. I've used it before when, everybody has that client that never changes their message. Like, you can't get them to change their message.
Yes.
And if you just send them an article, whether they act on it or not, and say, hey, this is a trend that's happening right now, I thought you'd be interested. And maybe we could change up your copy, change up your commercial a little bit.
Yeah.
That's all relationship too, right? Because that is about making sure that you show that you care and you're thinking about them. That's part of the relationship building. It's not, I didn't sell it and forget it. I actually care about what's happening with your business. And I was thinking of you.
Right. And another way is when you put two businesses together that could benefit each other. And it has nothing to do with you, right? You're working with each individual business, but they could work together and help each other's business grow. And you just make the introduction almost like a third party. Back in the day, we do a third party promotion or whatever, but it really has nothing to do with you. It's like this company and this company, you know what? Y'all really are going after the same type of customer, but for two different things. What if y'all teamed up and did something together, and you're just helping to facilitate it? And you have no gain from it. You're helping them, both of those companies grow.
Right. And at that point, then your relationship, if it was before, oh, this is my sales rep, now you're their partner, right? Because you didn't benefit from that. You helped them benefit from that. So what role does transparency play, you think, in relationships? Like, for example, we're in media and maybe our audience is not quite right. I mean, for a particular business. Now, again, we have so many different platforms that we sell now, so that's kind of hard to maybe be in that situation. But have you been in a situation where transparency has really played a role in building the relationship?
Yeah. So back a few years ago in our market, where we are like 30% African American market, right? And we as our group didn't have an urban station, but there were other groups in the market that did. Obviously, that's an important segment of the population to buy, right? And we didn't have it. So we became, friendly, whatever, like where we would just we would say, this is what you need to buy with us. And then for your urban buy, this is who you need to call, and they're going to take care of you over there. Right.
Yeah.
And so you're we are still directing it. Like, this is what you should do here. But if you want to reach the whole market, you're not going to reach the whole market without buying an urban station. And since we don't have it, this is our preferred partner of who you should go to. And we would have that reciprocal, agreement, so to speak,
well, and
who we were recommending.
That ratchets the relationship up, because all of a sudden now there's a huge trust factor. Right. It's not like you're going in and saying, no, you just need to do everything with me. You're directing them and what is in their best interest.
Right. Right.
So what about looking at your most successful, long-lasting client relationships? Are there any patterns that you notice?
They all say I'm wonderful.
There's one thing in common. That's you.
No, I'm just kidding. But no, they, I think they see me as a resource. They come to me for market updates. Obviously over the years, I've always delivered on what I've promised. That's the golden rule. You've got to do what you say you're going to do, but I think they do really see me as that trusted advisor, kind of that consultative coach kind of thing. But I think that's a constant theme across many of our longstanding advertisers, that, they have their own reps. They work with the reps, but then they might call me to say, hey, what do you think about this? Or what are you seeing over here? Or like when we go to lunch or whatever, then They might be picking my brain about some other things within the market or business in general.
So there's a lot of themes that we've surfaced here around relationships. I'm going to try to recount some of them, but it's like, be genuine,
Yes.
be yourself, build trust, have transparency that builds trust, truly have their best interests at heart. Sometimes things that are old or new again. So pick up the phone, drop in, get to know, look in their office. And by the way, this is a podcast, so nobody can see this, but Julie has no indicators behind her in her office about things that she's interested in. And neither do I, because I have a background on mine. But look around their office, research them online, do some homework, use some of the tools that are out there, like trend information, personality profiles on people that can help you build that rapport more quickly, things like that. And come with expertise. That's another thing that I'm hearing you say is have confidence, have expertise, be able to talk at their level though. So read the room, talk at their level, and value everybody, because everybody can be an influencer and help you with a particular client. Okay, I rattled a lot of stuff off. Did I miss anything?
There was a lot. That was great, because ultimately people remember how you make them feel, right? And how you help them, how you help them grow. That's what we're doing. We're in the business to help businesses grow through media. That's our business. But they remember that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. People remember how you make them feel. That is so true.
For sure.
And the other thing that I think I missed there in that long litany of things was speed.
Yes, you got to move
fast. You respond quickly, because even if the response is, I don't know, let me get back to you on that, at least they know that they've been heard.
Yes.
And that was something that I always told my reps, and I tell my team today is, even if you don't have an answer, let them know that you got their message and just respond and say, I'm checking on it for you.
Right.
That's all that people really want and that, to your point, bringing it full circle to where we started, is one of the things that you say people really respect about you is that you are on it. You're responding very quickly and addressing, if not with an answer, you're addressing that they've been heard. And that's a huge value underlier for a relationship, is that I know that Julie's here for me and she's going to get back to me ASAP. What else? Is there anything that we've missed as we look towards kind of wrapping up our discussion today?
Well, we talked about how, you get in and build a relationship, but once you're there, boy, you better have the expertise. You better know what you're talking about, right?
Right.
And you need to be ready to deliver. So that's all kind of a given, because that's what we do. But know where you want to go with it and figure out how to build that relationship. If you do not have the relationship, you will not get an opportunity to tell your story or to talk about what you have.
And you're right. It's not just about getting in the door, it's maintaining it. Just like we preach, you don't just sell the business and walk away. You have to maintain it and grow it. And that does come from the foundation of that is the relationship.
But be confident. Be confident in what you're doing. Be confident in your ideas. And then just be personable. Be real.
Yeah, be real. Don't be we're picking on car dealers and we shouldn't. Don't be the used car salesman, right?
Right. Just be real. Be yourself. People like that.
Julie, this has been such a great conversation.
Well, it's so good to see you.
What really stands out is how clearly you've shown that trust, consistency, and genuine care for people are what sustain long-term success, not tactics, not jargon, and definitely not paperwork. Your reminders about being responsive, doing what you say you'll do, valuing every person in an organization, and showing up as a real human are lessons every seller can apply immediately. When clients know you're invested in their success, that's when partnerships are built, and that's when real growth happens. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to our listeners for spending time with The Selling Edge. Until next time, keep selling smarter, not harder.